Welcome to gamescom.
Fantastic. Game trailers all access.
We're trying to sort of reinvigorate the franchise, and that's one of the reasons we came to Ninja Theory. But from our perspective, the core is still the fluidity and character control and the combat that Dante brings to the game, and the focus on Dante himself as a character. So that really, for us, was the core, and we felt like the guys at Ninja Theory would have a fresh take on it that would actually do the franchise well. The command came down from Japan that they wanted to get someone with a fresh perspective, maybe a Western feel. The feeling that Capcom was that DMC had always traditionally been a more Western game, and so it made sense from their perspective. They were looking to reinvigorate the franchise to move with a Western developer. When looking for potential partners, it's just clear that the sort of things that Ninja Theory does well are a lot of the things that a DMC game needs to do well. So high-end cinematics, really high production values, a focus on melee-based combat. They all had this at their core. What we felt we could bring was that added element of depth and experience of making great action games and fuse that with their innate storytelling abilities and production value to make something that would be incredibly compelling and a really fresh addition to the franchise. Without saying where we are as a specific percentage, we've obviously to this point been spending most of our time getting the combat right, because it's just basically the one thing that you have to nail when you're making a game like this. So most of the production resources have been allocated toward making the game just feel right from a controller standpoint, and that's required intensive collaboration with Capcom Japan, as Tamim said, like nitpicking frames and talking about really minute techniques for how to get the most out of it. We have also started to work on the layering of depth that you've seen with some of the traversal mechanics and the dynamic world morphing. These are elements that we're now starting to turn our attention to bring to about the same level of polish that you're seeing in the combat. But obviously, combat was job one. It's a very, very intensely collaborative relationship. Like, obviously, they do the work at the working and typing on the computers level, but we are there every month, 3 to 5 days out of the week. We generally bring multiple people who have worked on other versions of the franchise, most notably Tsuno-san, who's the key creative for DMC's 2, 3, and 4, and really are in the nitty-gritty. Like, in the two areas that we've really been collaborating intensely would be the look of the character and then obviously the look and feel of the combat. There are other areas where we give a fairly wide berth to Ninja Theory: atmospherics, mood, storytelling, visual palette as far as the environments go, because we feel that's exactly what we wanted them to refresh the series with, was their vision on that stuff, while holding what we felt was some of the core DNA stuff that we are incredibly involved in. First at the sort of experiential level, there's like a mood tone shift to the game a little bit. At the mechanic level, we're actually adding layers of gameplay that heretofore haven't been in DMC, so making a more thorough traversal system. So you'll see that Dante actually has abilities that allow him to manipulate and move the environment in ways that previous DMCs chose not to do. There'll also be some differences with level design and some emphasis on puzzles as well. But so that layer of depth and variety to gameplay, in addition to the silky smooth combat controls, is where we think we're sort of evolving the gameplay. The feel of the, like in the controller, just feels right now, and that is, as we've said, the result of collaborating almost at a co-direction level on the combat with Capcom Japan. And yeah, it has been sort of Ninja Theory going to Capcom University of game control and character movement. So yeah, it was a lot of meetings, a lot of learning, a lot of note-taking, but the Ninja Theory guys have been amazing with taking direction. They've been super receptive and just completely willing to learn. And as we've been willing to learn stuff from them as far as mood and storytelling. So it's been a fairly symbiotic relationship. We've taken away a lot from each other. You kick around a lot of ideas when you first start off a game process, and without saying what was put on the floor and what was not. The story that we're going to tell is the story that we feel is the right one to tell, and that is the rebirth of Dante, so telling his story in a different, updated manner. So that's not to say there won't be elements from your previous strains. Obviously, you do a reboot, you leverage elements of the existing canon and repackage them in ways that are compelling, and we'll do that, but at base, this is the story we did want to tell.
For those that are not quite won over yet, what would you say to them, and what do you think they'll be surprised by with what you're going for here?
Well, what I'd say is, keep an open mind. I think we are working collaboratively. I think a lot of the angst surrounding the re-announcement was predicated on the fact that it wasn't being done in Japan. They were afraid that it was just out willy-nilly with a developer that they didn't have any knowledge of, or whatever, had been not been into other games they had done, for whatever reason, felt as if that it wasn't going to be in good hands. But the fact is, these guys are amazing, and they're working incredibly closely with the Capcom Japan team, the core creatives who have worked on previous DMC. So all the meaningful elements of gameplay that people want, love, and desire from a DMC game will be reflected in our version. So I would just say, don't freak out over not seeing white hair the first time you saw it.